It's not relevant. We don't want to have any of that stuff in the mosque. Yeah, we just want British laws. British laws are the best, and that's it. We don't want to have any Sharia. If they come and say, you've got extremists in the mosque, you need to, get rid of these extremists. And by extremists, you know what I mean. Yeah, I don't mean their definition of extremists isn't, plane hijackers or people that bomb tubes. Their definition of extremists is anybody that wants Sharia, any Muslim that wants unity, any Muslim that wants khilafah, any Muslim that thinks homosexuality is a sin. That's what they define as extremists. So they want to be able to come to the mosque and say, you've got to root out these extremists. And they want the mosque to say, no, don't worry, we haven't got any guys like this in the mosque. Yeah? We don't believe in these things. We're not extreme. We don't believe in these things. Leave us alone, please. Yeah? We're not a problem, we're not a problem. That's the kind of response they want from the masjid. And the third thing that they want to achieve, brothers, and this was discussed last week, is, and we'll notice this in the run-up to the general elections next year, is that you're going to get every Tom, Dick and Harry politician knocking on our doors saying, vote for me so that the BNP doesn't come in. So like the brother last week discussed, the BNP, they want to make the BNP look like a big monster that's going to come and get us. Yeah? So quickly vote in these politicians so that the BNP don't come in power. And they're going to come to our communities and they're going to say, look, did you see what happened when they came down? They had this demo and they caused these problems. Yeah? If they come into power, that's going to be an everyday reality for you. Yeah? You're not going to be able to go shopping without getting rushed by these racists. The sisters aren't going to be able to walk down the street without getting abuse being shouted at them. So they're going to scare us into going and voting for them at the polls. But there's a couple of things that we need to realise about this situation. First of all, brothers, is that the EDL and the BNP, they're no threat whatsoever. Yeah? If you look at the EDL, how many guys did they bring down to Harrow? 25 guys. Yeah? Were they anywhere near the mosque? No. So how is that a threat that we should feel scared, whereby we should run to the polls and get involved in this kufr democratic process to make sure they don't come in? 25 guys come down to the community. Well, that's no threat whatsoever. Even if they brought 250 guys, so what? Yeah, the demo took place nowhere near the mosque. There was never ever any threat to the mosque or any threat to anybody. So we shouldn't get scared into thinking that these guys are even an issue for us. Yeah. And the second thing is, who are we going to vote for? The other politicians. So we're going to vote for someone like David Cameron, who said what? He said that radical Muslims are like the BNP. We're going to vote for someone like Jim Fitzpatrick, the MP for Popular. What did he say? He was invited to a Muslim wedding. Yeah, so he had this honour of being invited to a Muslim wedding. It was segregated, obviously. He went in there, he came out, straight away on the phone to the media, slagging off the wedding, saying, look, these Muslims, they segregate their weddings. That's extreme, that's going to harm community, cohesion, etc. Yeah, so we're going to vote for someone like Jim Fitzpatrick, who's saying that Islam is extreme. Are we going to vote for these politicians? Remember, these are the politicians that voted to go to war in Iraq and Afghanistan, which has resulted in the deaths of over 1 million Muslims. Yeah? So are we really going to go and vote for these guys? Are they actually any different to the BNP and people like the EDL? They've got just as much animosity and hatred towards Islam as the BNP and the EDL. In fact, brothers, I'd actually go one step further. I'd actually blame them for all of these issues that we're facing. Because if it wasn't for them attacking Islam every day for the last 8 years, yeah, the EDL and the BNP wouldn't have this anti-Islamic atmosphere where they can openly come and have these demonstrations and openly attack Islam. So we saw Nick Griffin on Question Time a couple of weeks ago openly saying Islam is a wicked ideology. And what was the response? There was no response. And that's because these politicians and the media, they've created this anti-Islamic atmosphere where it's okay to say these things about Islam. It's no problem. In fact, most people agree with these things anyway. So, brothers, don't fall into this other trap, which is to go and participate in the elections next year and vote for these politicians, because, wallahi, brothers, these politicians, they're no better and no different to the BNP and the EDL. So we've understood, yeah, that they're setting traps for us, they want to harm the Muslim community, and they're attacking Islam. So as, inshallah, sincere Muslims that care about our community and care about Islam, the question on our mind is going to be, so what are we supposed to do? Yeah? You're telling us don't vote, you're telling us don't go down to the mosque and fight. What are we supposed to do as a Muslim community? The first thing, brothers, is that we mustn't fall for these traps. Okay? So there's a famous hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, and he said, the Muslim doesn't get stung by the same hole twice. So that means if you make a mistake, if you fall for a trap, you've got to make sure that you don't make the same mistake again, you don't fall for the same trap again. This means that we've got to be clued up about what's happening. We've got to know what are the plans for the Muslim community so that we can avoid falling into these traps. And it's no use just the people in this room knowing what's going on and having our eye on the ball. Everybody in the community should know. Because remember, these agendas and these strategies, they're focused on the whole community. So we've got to go out there and we've got to discuss with the rest of the community. We have to invite them down to circles and talks like this where we can discuss openly. We should write leaflets where we explain these issues and give them out. We should invite people around our houses and discuss and make sure that they know what's happening. We should go and discuss with our imams, yeah? Make sure that they know what's happening, they can address these issues in Friday khutbahs, etc. So we've got to know what's happening, and then we've got to go and tell the community. That's very, very important. And the second thing is, brothers, yeah, perhaps the most important thing is that we mustn't compromise our Islam. Yeah, we mustn't get intimidated by this atmosphere. Because remember, that's the result that they want. They want the Muslims to compromise their Islam. They want the Muslims to keep their Islam on the low. So we must make sure that we don't fall into that trap. Yeah? That we make sure that we hold on to our Islam. And also, in order to do that, we have to stand up for Islam and we have to speak out for Islam. Because what's the issue, brothers? The issue is that there's this anti-Islamic atmosphere in society. So they've got misconceptions and they've got erroneous ideas about Islam. So if we want to combat that, we have to discuss those ideas. Yeah? We have to clarify those issues to the rest of the public. And what that involves is standing up and speaking out. Yeah? So we've got to address these issues. I'll just give you some examples of what I'm talking about. Yeah? So if we go back to Harrow Mosque, if they come and they say, oh, you want Sharia courts, what's that all about? We shouldn't turn around and say, no, we don't want that. We should turn around and say, what's wrong with having Sharia courts? Why can't we have an imam that arbitrates between a man and a woman regarding the issues? What's wrong with having that? The Jews have their own religious courts. Why can't we have our own religious courts? If they come and say, like Jim Fitzpatrick, oh, Islam is extreme because you segregate weddings, we should say, isn't it extreme that 50,000 women are raped in Britain every year, and half of those rapes occur when they've been on a date with someone? Yeah? Isn't it extreme when you don't segregate? Yeah? And if it's extreme to segregate weddings, how come it's not extreme to segregate hospital wards? Yeah, so in hospital here, you don't have men and women in the same wards, it's segregated. So how come that's not extreme, but it's extreme to segregate weddings? Yes, we have to come up with these kind of arguments, yeah, so that we defend our values. Another one, if they say Islam is violent, Islam is bloodthirsty, Muslims are violent, I mean, I don't know how you can even have a straight face and say that, yeah, if you're, from the government. But we should say, look at Western foreign policy. Yeah, how many people have died in the last century from Western foreign policy? Just in the war on terror, over 1 million people have been killed by Western foreign policy. 2 atomic bombs were dropped on Japan. That killed hundreds of thousands of people. So we shouldn't even entertain this discussion that Islam is violent and bloodthirsty when look at the Western track record. Look at their foreign policies. This has resulted in millions and millions and millions of deaths. Yeah, and the use of these, nuclear weapons. So brothers, I just want to end here by saying that we need to build this confidence in Islam. Yeah? We need to build the community's confidence in Islam. And in fact, instead of just being very defensive, yeah, so they throw accusations at us and then we're just very defensive, yeah, we need to completely change the focus of the discussion. Because if you look at the Islamic values, they build strong families. They build strong communities.